You're listening to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, episode number 197. Today I speak with wife, homeschool mom, and founder of Jack's Teach, Tiffany Robbins, on the importance of a homeschool community. Welcome to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, where we gain inspiration and motivation from others who share their touching stories of renewing hope and discovering purpose in any circumstance. I'm your host, Christina Reisinger, and today we will be encouraged by another tremendously inspirational topic that will embolden you to release fear, begin taking small steps forward, and move into your God-given purpose to live and serve in this life. Join me for today's story. Hello, lovely ladies and gentlemen. Over the next couple of weeks, we are going to have something different and very special for you. I will be speaking with authors, bloggers, YouTubers, entrepreneurs, and all-around go-getters who all have one thing in common: homeschool. So whether you are a homeschool professional, just getting your feet wet in the homeschool world, or considering venturing into a whole new endeavor, these are the talks for you. Join my friends and I as we share the highs and some low moments, encouragement, perseverance, challenges, blessings, reasonings, priorities, how-tos, and yes, even some curriculum suggestions during this homeschool series. Let's listen. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Faith Breathed Hope. I am your host, Christina Reisinger, and we are in the middle of our homeschool series. Today, I am here with Tiffany Robbins. Hey, Tiffany, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So today we have another episode for you out there who are trying to figure out whether you want to do homeschool life, whether you've been in homeschool for a number of years, whether you're struggling or you're excited and giddy every single day, because we all are, right? So Tiffany, the first thing I want to ask you is if you can share something about homeschool that maybe most people disagree with, or maybe you think a little differently on.
Okay, that's a great question. I think that with homeschool, most people think that you have to sit down the number of hours the kids are in school and do active school the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So if a kid's in school for 8 hours, you have to sit down for 8 hours and do your schoolwork. And that couldn't be further from the truth. A large part of public school or even private school is them trying to get a gaggle of children to do something all together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever tried to herd a large group of children, and yes, I said herd, you know how difficult that can be, right? It's not an easy task.
No.
So trying to get 20 to 35 kids to do a single task, whether that be use the restroom, wash their hands, or sit down and listen to something, is a big endeavor. And I think that we forget schooling can be quick and can be deep and meaningful without taking that full amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Most assuredly. We've already talked about that, is this idea of we have to really focus on the academics. That can be something that parents, I think, come to this place and they think that they have to do certain amount of hours. And I was like that the very first year that I homeschooled. And we were all in tears. And somebody asked me what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm doing it just like school.
Yeah. I talked to a lady today at the library, and it happened happenstance, like they happen. And she said, I was homeschooling last year. I really wanted to keep with it, but it just wasn't working for us. And I feel devastated that I'm putting my kids back in school. And when I started talking with her, she tried to do school online.
Yeah.
And I discussed with her the difficulty of having a kid sit in front of a computer for hours a day, right? That's hard. That's a hard way to do it. And it does work for some people, but not my kids, and probably not. Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't probably work for my kids either. And that's not our preferred way, although I do know people that choose to do it that way. So there's so many different types of homeschool.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Absolutely.
Today, though, we are going to talk about something that we often mention in all of our other shows and interviews is about community. Community is so important. Yeah, if you've listened to the show for an amount of time, you know we talk about community in the sense of grief, in the sense of trying to have
Mm.
this hope. And so there's nothing that's different with that when we look at homeschool. In homeschool, we look at the fact that we may feel alone. We may feel alone in the time that we decide to bring our kids at home. We've discussed the fact that uh, kids feel kind of awkward. You know, there's this myth about how
Mhm.
homeschool kids are really strange and they don't get socialized. But that is pretty far from the truth. And today we're going to talk about community, why we need it. Well, let's just start there.
Yes.
So, why do we
Yeah,
need community? Why can't we just sit at home and just say, hey, I am an island?
you could, right? But I think that most people find when they try that, it doesn't work well.
Hmm.
We aren't made to be islands. We're not made that way. We're not made to put ourselves in a corner and hope for the best. We do work best when we come together and we learn from each other. Um, I know your podcast is very Christian based, and that is also biblical. When two or three come together, there the Lord shall be. I'm probably misquoting, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
There are multiple references in the Bible of how community shapes us, how steel shapes steel. But at the end of the day, we're going to hit hard times. There are going to be times, if you've homeschooled even for a year, you know there are going to be challenging days where
Right.
you think, I have made some big mistakes or I can't do this. And you need your community to lift you up and remind you of the importance of the work that you're doing and remind you that you can do this. There are rough days. We all have them. Parenting is a rough day.
Right. Right. And I'm so glad that you say that because we need people to understand that you're not going to do it perfect. You don't have to
No.
do it perfect. You're probably not even expected to do it perfect unless you expect yourself to do it perfect, which you should
Right.
just throw out the window there. Um,
Yes.
when you talk about this community, you debunk this idea that homeschoolers are not socialized. I was going to say that they're not weird, but I was speaking to a friend before this and she's like, yeah, we're all weird. You know, everybody's
Weird.
weird. You're not, what is
There's
normal?
beauty in weird. There's beauty in weirdness, though. I mean, I think it's nice because homeschoolers get to display the weirdness a little bit more openly.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we're all weird in some way.
Right.
Like, I love character socks. I love them so much. I sleep in them. I love them. Do most people know that about me? No, absolutely not. Or like, there's only one cereal in the world I will eat. We all have weird tendencies. I think that when you're a homeschooler, you just become comfortable with
Mhm.
that part of yourself. And there's beauty, you know, going through the public school system, I didn't find comfort in who I was until I was much older and out of the school system because it felt like everything you did was kind of always under a magnifying glass and was kind of being highlighted, and how different you were was always on display. Whereas
Mhm.
with homeschooling, I feel like we tend to embrace those things about us that make us unique. And there's beauty in that. And there's beauty in these children early on knowing who they are and embracing those unique, I'll call them weird, but those unique things about ourselves.
Absolutely. It's exciting because we get to teach our children how to get rid of their inhibitions, things that would hold them back, but teach them to think outside of the box. And not only to think outside of the box, but to act on that and not, like you said, shy in
Mhm.
the corner thinking you're the only one that may have this
Right.
idea. We say, so what? So what if you're the only one? Let's hear
Right.
it.
Right.
Bring it on, you know? um,
Absolutely.
but you know, we want to make our kids comfortable in who they are. And that's a big reason why kids have to face a lot of anxiety and a lot of
Yeah.
bullying and things like that. That I know I went to public school when I was little, and I actually taught public school for 7 years. So knowing that the way kids are, and they can be so mean to each other. I realize in
Yes.
our school community, the kids aren't, I mean, there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of the clique, but we
Oh,
realized that kids are used to allowing one another to talk freely and
mhm.
to just be who they are. So, you
Going
mentioned,
back to that,
go, go ahead.
I grew up in a very small town in West Virginia in the 80s. So it was before the internet was really a big, huge thing like it is today. And we were very isolated. And I remember we moved to Florida when I was in the fourth grade. And the kids would pick on me horribly. I had this strong Southern West Virginia accent, which if I go home, I still carry back with me. They would say, "Y'all come back now, you hear?" And they were not kind. They were not generous. They made fun of every way in which I was different from them. And I really struggled through school from that point forward, just because I felt like such an outsider. And, kids, like you said, they can be kind of cruel and kind of mean if left to their own, right? If there's so many that the poor teachers can't keep up with them, and you taught for 7 years, it's difficult, it's challenging.
Mhm.
So it is a little bit harder when you have these larger class sizes that they have today.
It's hard to monitor the kids, and it's hard to
Mhm.
have um deep conversations. Like when you're in the public school system, I was close to a lot of my students, but I believe, and I think that was probably only because I was in an area like drama, theater, dance, video production, those kind of things, where I guess the kids kind of dropped uh like they were allowed to be a little bit more real. They didn't have to just stand the line the whole time, and so that they could be themselves a little bit more. But I did see a lot of that in the school system where they picked on one another. I remember the girls had some type of a oh goodness, what was that thing in the Mean Girls where they had the something book, the burn book, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
They
Oh, I
passed
remember that.
it around. Yeah. So things like that do happen. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in homeschool, but you tend to be part of a community that just kind of wants to do things a little differently. And like you said, they want to
Mhm.
allow themselves just to be who they are. Um,
Right.
and you said that we need community for reminders. And this is something that I've talked about in the grief space actually a lot because of the fact that you start feeling this overwhelming these overwhelming thoughts of being alone, that you're the only one that's going through something, you're the only one that
Mhm.
is feeling the emotions that you're feeling, and you can
Absolutely.
relate this to the homeschool space or any space, really, any space where you have
Mhm.
relationships, where there are people that come beside you and remind you, hey, this is why you started this. This is why you want to do this. But then I also, in the biblical space, in the Christian space, we can remind one another of what God's word is. What does he say about how we should live our life? What does he say about how we treat one another? Um,
Mhm.
so, what are some other reasons that we need community? We need it to help us as parents. What is it
Yes.
for our kids, and are
Mhm.
there different kinds of community?
So I would say that one of the things that I feel we have gotten away from is multi-generational community.
Mm-hmm.
So now we tend to stay in groups of our peers by age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Classes are arranged by age. Even in adulthood, we do it that way. And when you get older, you tend to see these retirement communities or these groups for older persons. Even in your church, you probably have, your senior classes and your young
Mm-hmm.
adult. We
Right.
silo ourselves into these groups. And and in some ways it's nice because you have something in common, but what we lose in siloing ourselves is we lose that again, that multi-generational approach, which means we learn from each other. The
Mm-hmm.
younger generation can bring fresh perspective. They can bring like a raw learning, whereas
Mm-hmm.
our older generation brings wisdom. And when you combine those, right, when you have the younger enthusiasm and zest, and then the older with the wisdom and the experience, there's a lot of learning and beauty that happens there together. And it also statistically has been shown that everyone is healthier when there's multi-generation involved. So when, you have your daughter and your mother and your grandmother all in one room and they're discussing things about their lives, they all learn side by side. There's also a lot of history there, family history that we may have even forgotten. So there's something, that's one. You asked me the different types. There's one. So multi-generational, I would say, would be another. Another would be support, like that we've talked about. Let me try and think of a different kind of community. And even like kind of like where you're at in life. So for us, we're in a lot of homeschooling groups, and that helps us find our resources, find people who are like-minded. Right now I'm searching for the girlfriend who comes over and hangs out with me while I do my laundry, right? It's in that homeschooling community that I might be able to find that. But it's just nice to find like-minded people too. So we do need different kinds of community. That's a great question.
Yes, we do. And, it affords our children to figure out who they are again, because they're thinking about what their passions are. And they say, hey, you know what? Not everybody's an artist. Let me go hang out with these people that enjoy to go a little deeper in the same kind of thing that I want to go deeper in. You don't have to just learn, what you would, if you're sitting in a classroom, you learn that for a semester or whatever, and then that's it. You can go a little deeper with that.
What are your favorite kinds of community? What have I forgotten?
What is it? What are my favorite kind of community? Well, I actually like the idea where you're talking about the multi-generational. I also find that probably the most interesting and the most difficult. It depends on we've gone away from the one room schoolhouse where we have everybody, all the kids in one space. And we know when we homeschool, we have different age groups. We may have an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school person. And then we have the mom or dad. And then if you have grandparents come over, then you're starting to get different perspectives of things. The most interesting piece is the stories, I think, that we can all tell. We can all share, hear grandma and grandpa talk about how they did things and how different it is. And then you look at like even the technology that's changed, the things that our kids are doing to be able to learn. It's just completely different. And it's even different. We talk about it's different than what we did. I remember there was a meme going on around on, I think, Facebook, and it was this old box computer, and the monitor that we I don't know how old you are, but it's old. And so we used to play this game called the Oregon Trail. And it was
yes.
You remember the Oregon Trail?
Yes, I always died of terrible diseases, right?
Yeah, you had like typhoid, tuberculosis, or something like that.
Dysentery is what got me.
Yes, dysentery. And I thought, you know what, it was such a fun memory of mine to sit there. And we had, I don't know, it was something like an hour or two of tech or computer class a week, or maybe it was a day, I can't remember. But that's what we did in computer class, was play the Oregon Trail. And it was so much fun. And what
I love it
is that my oldest, my 13-year-old, he knew about the Oregon Trail from YouTube. Apparently people have talked about it, and it's a game. I think you can get it as a game on Amazon now, just kind of sidestepping or whatever. But they have the best time when we go home and they see their grandparents, and their grandparents tell stories, or their dad shares about the history that he knows because he was a history major. And from my experience, a lot of men like history, and so he has father and both grandfathers that just love to talk about all kind of history. And so that is something that I don't really prefer to teach, but they get it from their grandparents, and they get it from
I love that.
So and that, I guess that's another good thing about being able to have multi-generations and different perspectives, is because we can all, like, the thing that is my strength may not be my husband's, and vice versa. So, and I'm sure you see that as well.
Absolutely.
And I think I said it was difficult, and I guess it's not multi-generation. It's having like that one room schoolhouse that I was saying is it can be really
Mhm.
difficult if you have several children and they're all learning different things. And I just said
Right,
that because I want to encourage people to say, hey, it's okay. It's
right.
gets better if you're in the thick of it when they're really young and you still, especially if you have several, and tell me if you agree with this. If you have several that are really close together, it can be, it can sometimes be chaos and madness. But it turns into something beautiful
I
because
agree.
you think you see them grow up and you see them teaching each other. Do you see that a lot?
So mine are 18 months apart. I have two.
Right.
They're 18 months apart, so we could probably do the exact same things. There are some areas that we deviate because one of mine is stronger in math and the other is stronger in language arts. So we do different things for those two.
Mm-hmm.
But generally we homeschool together and we do a because mine are younger, we do a more Charlotte Mason or play based with a little bit of classical. And that way we get a good foundation, but we also make it a lot of fun because they're little enough that we don't have to take ourselves, I don't want to say too seriously because that's, schooling is important, but we are able to have a lot of fun together. I think one of my favorite things that we do is we use beautiful feats around the world through picture books
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to see your geography through different picture books and the stories within them, recipes, crafts, all kinds of things. And again, mostly play-based learning or literature-based learning. So I'm not at the point yet where we've had too many snags on the learning portion. We've done a lot of child-led learning through Blossom and Root, Harbor and Sprout. So we've had luck, thankfully. Don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. I have had my hard days for other reasons. There are days where you struggle,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a beautiful thing, like you said. I love the fact that I don't have to sacrifice my time with my children, nor am I left questioning. Even when my kids go to like Sunday school and they come home, you'll say, "Oh, what did you learn today?" And what do all children say?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I don't know. And I'm like, you are homeschooled children. Like, you, come on, give me something. And even still, I cannot imagine. And this is nothing against people who send their children to school. We all have our own choices. There's nothing wrong with any of our choices. But I personally cannot imagine sending them to school and having no idea what they learned all day. No idea. Because they
Right.
would say, what did you learn today? Not much. I don't know.
Our kids did go, well, two of our kids went to public school before we started. We've only been homeschooling 4 years. There are good things for both. But, when you really start bringing your kids home and you get to spend that time with them,
I
I
love it.
don't know about you. My first thought was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be with them every single day. But then it's like, great. And I know people who, well, that's funny. It's funny for me, I guess now, but I know people who are like, oh, I want to keep my kids home or forever. Like I never planned to send them to school. And I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't that person. I was the person like, I'm going to go work and my kids are going to
Oh,
school,
wow.
but I digress. Anyways, so we are talking about community. So I'm going to get back on
Yeah.
topic, but I wanted to ask you when we have community. So we talked about the perks for adults. We've talked about some extra perks for kids and how they learn from different perspectives. What
Mhm.
does it do for their friendships? Is it difficult to find good friendships when you stay at home and you have to find different communities?
I mean, it would be impossible if you stayed home, right? Because outside of your family, and your family's great, but you also need friendships outside of your family. And I don't care how big your family is, you need someone that's a safe place to go to. And if nothing else, complain about your family, right? Because sometimes, and complain's not the right word, but sometimes we need to voice our frustrations to a safe person.
Mhm.
Your family probably isn't the best place to talk about your family all the time.
Mhm.
But if you have a hard time in your marriage, let's say, you wouldn't want to go to your mother-in-law, right? Or your sister-in-law and talk about that. I mean, maybe you could, but that's not my choice. That's not my first choice. But if you have close friends, who have the same um, ethics and life choices as you, and will support you in a healthy way. I think that's where those close friendships really help out.
Mhm.
Um, Today, one of my very dear friends took my daughter to the movies with her children for a girls' day out. And it was a first for me. I'd never left my children to just go off without me at all. And I didn't have any worries or fear because she's such a good friend and I know who she is. And those things are important. It's important to have somebody, um, your mom passes away, God forbid, you have somebody to help remind you.
Mhm.
There's a beautiful quote. I'm gonna get it wrong. But there's a beautiful quote about friends are the ones to help you remember the music even when the words have gone. It's something to that effect. It's a beautiful saying, and I wish I hadn't hacked it so bad. But you really do need people to lift you up. There will be times when you need to lift other people up. But having community means having a safe space, having contentment in your life, but also just having some fun. You need to have some fun too. It's really easy, especially when you're homeschooling, but even outside of that, it's really easy to get so involved in the day to day that you forget that you are also a person and you're not just a mom, not just a wife, not just a teacher, but a person who has feelings and who matters. And if you put yourself in the corner and you forget about your needs and wants, what's going to happen is you're going to get probably angry. You're probably going to get a little bitter towards those roles. And you might get a little cranky or more of like a yell mom face.
Mhm.
Um, and it's our friendships that help us through those moments, that keep us sane.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were meant to do life together. And so I'm going to tell you a story. A couple of years ago, we started a new community, and one of those friends that I had made in that community knew that we were sick. Our family was sick, and we couldn't make it. And so our community is, I drive about probably an hour because we
Mhm.
love doing life with these people. And she came over to my house and brought us, I think it was elderberry syrup and some other things to try to help us.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of thing. I mean, these are the kind of things that you have when you have a church family,
Mhm.
but it's also a family when you do homeschool as well. I mean, you have
Yes.
friends when you go to public places, like you're in school and you're in sports or whatever. It doesn't matter what
Mhm.
you're in. Community is very important all across. But I think that if people are saying, hey, well, if I decide to homeschool and I'm going to keep my kids at home, it's just going to be
Yes.
us, and we're going to get on each other's nerves, and they're not going to have any friends, and they're going to be unsocialized and weird, and we're going to drive each other crazy. And you may drive each other crazy sometimes, but the rest
Yeah.
of it, you have a huge opportunity to meet other people. So,
Hmm.
and I know that you see that because you have kind of come into this place that you have formed like a leadership over community and networking. So you probably see firsthand how people connect with one another. You connect one group to another,
Yeah.
one mom to another. Um, so Tiffany, right now, I actually want to jump to that and see if you could talk about the importance of connection and community. And so
Yeah.
we
Absolutely.
go
I would love
out,
to.
yeah, we can go out and find it ourselves, but you help do this for people, so tell us about it.
Yes. So my husband and I, a little backstory. My husband and I both had bad school experiences in Duval County. I in no way blame the school system, just happened. And for that, we knew we would probably homeschool early on when my children were born. And that was pre-COVID. And I joined the homeschool groups and I watched. I was like a silent stalker, call myself. But I just took in all the information, the questions that were asked, the curriculum people recommended. And I had years to do this because, it took 6 years before my daughter was kindergarten age. And so I had 6 years of knowledge amassed before we actually had to jump into homeschooling. And what a blessing. But what I found after having started was that people were saying over and over again they had to dive in. And when you dive in, it's so much harder. I can't imagine. I'm glad I haven't had to do that But I can't imagine, taking your kid out of school and then all of a sudden having to figure it out, or all of a sudden one day something traumatic happens and this is your choice. So I have an MBA, and I thought, I have a master's degree. There's got to be something I can do. I don't want to just sit by when people need help. And I thought that, I kept saying, I need to do this, I need to do this. And one day my mom said, I'm going to buy your URL right now. You better tell me what it's going to be called, because I'm buying it now. I'm going to give you a year. You're doing this. You've been talking about it for a while. Stop talking, start doing. And I went, okay. And I was like, well, if we ever, I don't want it just homeschoolers. What about people who are supplement? I'm like, Jax Teach. And that's how it started. This was September of 2023. I had to think what year it was. Oh my gosh. This was last year. And so I built out the website. I had never done that before. I learned through YouTube videos. I tried my best. But it got up there. And what I found is I thought it would be small. It would be helpful in some small way. But it has grown to this beautiful thing where you can find your community. I have met community. It's a safe space to ask questions. You don't have to be a certain person. You don't have to homeschool a certain way. And I love that it's a safe space. But I will say this. At the end of the day, I'm an introvert, and it's hard to tell that because I do love people.
Yeah.
But I would encourage those who are shy or afraid to put themselves out there, or who find it really uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable to do something new. It's really uncomfortable to present your raw self to people you don't know. And I get that that's why a lot of us lack community, is because it takes effort, it takes confidence, and it does take courage. It takes courage to put yourself out there, and you're not going to like everybody. Right?
Right.
You're going to put yourself out there. You're going to meet some people you don't necessarily care for. You're going to find some groups that aren't a good fit for you. You're going to have growing pains. It's going to be uncomfortable, but let your children see you make yourself uncomfortable. Let your children see the growth that happens. Let your children see the connections and how important those are. And then you'll find that not only you have friends, but your children have friends as well. And then you'll get to a point where you have to say no a lot to play dates and meetups to people you love, because
Right.
your social calendar is full. And what a great problem to have. So,
Yes, for sure. And I like the fact that you said, and you didn't say it exactly this way, but not all communities are going to be your community. I think
yes.
that sometimes we may go into this place and we say, oh, we didn't get along with these people, or it just didn't feel exactly right. And you think, come away with it thinking, oh, something might be wrong with me, that we didn't fit in, but that's not the case. It's just that
No.
there are different people that you can do life with, and it's okay
Yeah.
if it's not that one particular group. If it's not that one group, it'll be a different group, correct?
Like dating, right? Like you don't want to
Yeah.
marry the first
Yes,
date you have
exactly.
on. You want to date around and make sure that that's the one. I mean, maybe you got lucky at 16 and you met the one, but it's probably not going to happen that way.
Right, right. That's a good way to think about it, so that you're not down if you don't find them right away. You want to get comfortable in the uncomfortable. That's it right there. So
Hard place to be.
go ahead.
Let me ask you this. How long did it take you to find, because you said you found the perfect community and you're driving an hour. How long did it take you to find that? Did you have some uncomfortable growing pains there?
Yes. Well, we found a good community, actually two. We were split from a community the first year, and it was good in both ways, but it just wasn't a fit for us the second year going in, because they were supposed to merge and we just needed something different. So then we found something, but it was further away. And then we ended up actually splitting two communities again, and they were both great communities. It's just, life happens, and things, you go one way or another way or whatever. But yes, for the most part, we're still doing community with most of those people. Just didn't, it
Nice.
looked a little different. So they kind of split, and one group went one way, and so I've got one kid with one group and two kids with the other group. So Tiffany, can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about Jax Teach? Where can where can we find you? You said it was the website jaxteach.com. Is that it?
Yeah. So I think, people tend to send them to our Facebook page, but when you initially check out Jax Teach, you'll want to go to Jax, Jax, teach, teach.org. If you forget and put in .com for right now, it auto moves you over, but it's .org. And the beauty of Jax Teach is we have it divided into 3 sections. The first is the Explore section, and that is if you need some basic information about homeschooling, you need to know how do I start? Where do I start? How do I look at curriculum? There's a quiz on there for, what is my curriculum style? What's my family's curriculum style? That'll help you determine a couple options. There's scholarship opportunities there. And most of those I link out to the experts. I am in no way claiming to be a homeschool expert. I want to make that very, very clear. I am not an expert. I'm just trying to form, like we're talking about here, that community where you can find your resources and you can find your people. And that brings me to section 2, which is supplement. And in the supplement section, that's where you'll find co-ops, groups, field trip options for teenagers and preschoolers. Classes are listed there. We call that the Northeast Florida Homeschool Directory under supplement. And then last is, I should know this. I don't remember what the last section is called now. That's okay. It happens.
It's okay. We can go check it out when we go to the site, right?
Yeah, but that one is, but it is for, like there's some deals on there. That section's not huge yet. I need to build it out more. But the thing is, it's the more mature section. So once you've been homeschooling for a while, which really isn't me yet. And then our Facebook page is really great to find pertinent news for homeschoolers, like if the laws have changed or if there's some change to the grants, and events. And we currently have an event on August 20th at the St. Augustine Aquarium. It's the Back to Homeschool Bash. I'm super excited about that one. The aquarium is giving us 40% off of our tickets. If you can't make it on that day, it still continues forward. And Ripley's has a deal. Check it out on the website. I'm not going to waste time on the specifics, but it is on our Facebook page and on our website.
Great. That's great.
Oh, but let me say there are goodie bags for that one that we'll raffle off. And we've had very generous sponsors in the community who donated everything. And I'm super excited about those goodies.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Tiffany, will you share one more thing with the audience? I want to have you share maybe your biggest encouragement for those people out there that said, hey, we haven't found our community yet. We're still looking. We hear that you have this website, but I'm still a little apprehensive about what to do, or, what would you tell those people?
I would probably say the first would be there are some groups on there that are Facebook. And if you're on social media, those are probably a good place to start and just watch. Sometimes being an online stalker is absolutely okay, right? Like, don't actually stalk somebody, but just sit and watch and take in information. You don't have to comment. When you join those Facebook groups, they don't homeschool groups, they don't expect you to chat or add anything. You can just lurk. That's the word I need, lurk. But also come to our events. We just recently had, I guess it was in, time is up, May, we had the homeschool open house, and we had over 30 vendors and over 200 families come through. And we did classes concurrently over that time period on how to homeschool, free resources. So I would say check out our events, but we are not the only great group in Northeast Florida. There are a lot of them. Join our Facebook as we share those really great other groups, and you see who's responsive and who's out there in the community. There's so many options. That's the thing, is it doesn't have to be Jax Teach. That could be your springboard, and I hope that's your springboard, because I'm not a community. I'm just a community gatherer. But if you feel uncomfortable and you feel out of sorts, shoot me an email. It's tiffany@jaxteach.org. Shoot me an email and let me know what you're looking for. And if I know of it, I'll help. or if I can introduce you to people, or even if you want to volunteer with me and sit beside me and be handheld. I'm not going to literally hold your hand, but if you need a little hand holding, that's okay too. I will meet you where you're at to make you comfortable, because this is important. And I could talk forever. I'm sorry, Kristen, I'm taking all the time, but this is something I'm passionate about, because it's changed my life to have community in a beautiful way. And I hope that for you and your family too.
Right. And so whether you are a little apprehensive and you need someone to hold your hand, or you're ready to start going, the first thing to do is just take a step, right?
Yep.
So.
Take a step and just, trust. If you're religious, trust God, trust God. But we need each other. Again, it's biblical. I have a couple. Do I have time to read
Yes,
one?
please. We always
Okay.
welcome scripture on the show.
Mark 10:45, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. So it's great to help out in your community, right? Proverbs 3:27, do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it's in your power to act. So volunteerism is a great way to find your community. Always. I post those on Jack's Teach as well. And then I had one here on community. Keep on loving one another as brother and sister. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. Hebrews 13:1 and 2. So, it comes over and over again that we're meant to be servants to our fellow mankind. We're meant to come together. There's a lot on the importance of church in the Bible. I didn't write those down. I was trying to take notes while my kids were playing very loudly in the family room. That's homeschooling for you, though. You get little moments.
That.
You know that.
I get it.
So
So I wanted to comment real quick on the fact that you were talking about volunteering. And when we do that, we're not just getting out there, but we're also
right.
teaching our children to be vulnerable and to walk into that vulnerability so that they can expand their borders and they can learn to be of service to other people.
We actually are my husband and I are working currently, and I haven't really mentioned this to anybody outside of my close friends, but we're working to add a volunteer for families portion to Jack's Teach. And whether that be, I think it'll probably be like a separate group page, but it'll be something where you can bring your children and do volunteer work. And so they can do that side by side. My mom was really great when I was little about that. And I thankfully have that spirit now. I love volunteering. My children have volunteered at the food banks and done different things, and they have a servant's heart. And it's a beautiful thing within your family. So we want to help you find that. So we'll have some things coming up for finding volunteer opportunities that even your little ones can do with you.
Absolutely. That sounds great. Thank you, Tiffany. It was so great to have you on the show. Thank you for all of your wealth of knowledge and for sharing your program with us. I hope that if you are in the Jacksonville community, you will take a look at jacksteach.org, reach out to Tiffany and see how you can find people or even how you can help. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
For all of you out there, I hope that you continue to be blessed and bless others, and I'll see you next time. The 2024-2025 school year is just around the corner. I want to tell you about a brand new arts enrichment program in Jacksonville, Florida for homeschool students ages 5 to 14 called CFlex Academy. The arts enrichment program at CFlex Academy provides a creative and fun learning experience as students explore and hone their skills in performing in visual arts. The core value system is rooted in biblical principles and the belief that through passion, inspiration, hard work, integrity, and perseverance, creative ideas become successful growth opportunities that enhance technique, a love for the arts, and leadership skills. At CFlex, they strive to inspire your student to develop a great love for dance, theater, music, and visual art that will serve them in other aspects of life. Registration is still open. You can go to the show notes, click the link, and register today. And I want to thank you for joining us on Faith Breathed Hope, where you gain inspiration and motivation to renew hope and discover purpose in any circumstance. Please like and share this podcast and give us a review on iTunes. Be blessed.